So once again, guys, welcome to this session. This is our first session in this course. And what I'm going to do in here is that I'm going to discuss an introduction to the course material. And I will also give you some information about how we're going to evaluate this and how we're going to run the course. Once again, if you have missed the beginning, we will meet once a day. So I'm gonna change once a week, sorry. So lectures will be every Monday. From 10:30 to 1:30. You will need to attend to the BB channel created open down below. Inside the BB channel, a Zoom link will be shared with you during the lecture hours. So mark this date from now on. So we have to meet like 7 times or so during this summer term. And we're gonna run classes through this Zoom application. So today I'm gonna briefly talk about an introduction to Java and the Swing library. That's my topic. I will talk about variables. I will talk about methods, selection, iteration, and so forth. Many of these things in Java are actually exactly the same as in other languages, such as when you join this course, you should complete a programming course before, preferably C++. So hence why, when you join this course, you already know programming. This is why the basic constructs that are taught to you in the programming classes, they are not going to be repeated in this course. I'm not going to repeat any of the statements such as how to write an if-else, how to write switch or loops or functions and so forth. What I do in here is to show you how we can handle programs in an object-oriented way. So we're going to learn like classes, encapsulation, object creation, manipulation, method overwriting, polymorphism, stuff like this. So basically very focused on object-oriented programming. But in order to learn object-oriented programming, you need to know basic programming. This is why I'm gonna basically only discuss about these issues, about basic programming constructs, but I'm not gonna spend too much time on them. One of the reasons why we choose Java for this course is that Java is an old language nowadays, and it is a language that is actually built as an object-oriented programming environment from the ground up. This means that when Java created, it was already decided to make it an object-oriented programming environment, where this wasn't the case back in C, when C was discovered. So when we look at the C language, it kind of like raised as a necessity to expand it, to make it more developed in order to address the needs of the people, developers at the time. So the object-oriented programming constructs were not very refined in C and in C++. So basically in C, you cannot even do object-oriented programming. You can do it in C++. But because it gradually expanded, it wasn't really designed to be an object-oriented programming language from the very beginning. It was kind of like expanded in that way. When we come to Java, however, it was from the beginning that this language was designed to be an object-oriented environment. It is now a 30 years old language, so I would say it's an old language nowadays. But it has its perks. It is still widely used in the world, although the usage of Java has been declining since 2015-16. We see quite a big drop down in the usage of Java. There are still very good and powerful job positions in the development, software development industry that you can see as Java development. So this is a language you should definitely put on your resume and show people that you actually know this language. It is kind of like the fundamental languages that it expected you to know. There are, of course, certain benefits of Java that come with it as being one of the languages that was developed as a object-oriented environment, such as it doesn't rely on a platform to run. It has something called virtual machines. And basically, the virtual machine handles the background hardware processes. So you don't have to worry about the high-end development for this. So this means that when you write the Java code on a Mac machine or on a Linux or on Windows environment, it will run the same. So the higher end code, the code that you write, the source code, is not going to change. Although the virtual machine that you install at the background is going to change probably, the parts that you code is not going to change. It is always a robust environment. The idea of Java is to write it once and use the code as many times as possible. Java came with the idea also on parallel programming, which is multi-threads, so that threads that can perform, operations independently or together with one another, so the programs can wait and function. So basically, when you write the Java code, you can see it from there. When you write the Java code, you see the high-level code is being compiled, and it is converted into the assembly. And then from there, the Java virtual machine or whatever the compiler you are using, in this case, our JVM, converts the code into the machine format, which is like ones and zeros. Okay, that's how it works. Going into here, you can see an example to do this. You write the Java code, which is basically the code that you write. This goes into the compiler, generates you the class, which is like the compiled version of the Java file. This will be read by the computer. And then if you don't do any changes, this part is completely ignored. The next time you run it, it starts from this place. So the first time you run the Java code, it's actually slow. But if you don't do any changes on it, it starts from here the next time, and it runs quite faster. Okay, so the first time is probably it's going to take some time to run the code, especially if you have many lines of code, but the next time it will run faster. This is a language that is both compiled and interpreted. And as far as I know, at the time, this was like one of the first languages that adopted the both. So it was either interpreted languages or compiled languages back then, but Java applied both at the same time. Have you got any question until this point? I guess your awkward silence means no. So when we come here, you see that Java can run on different systems. So you can run it on a Windows machine, on a Linux server or a system, the Mac, and even on Android. Now the Android environment has the default language as Kotlin, but up until like 2 years ago, Java was the default language. So Kotlin has been, basically Java was replaced by Kotlin because Google and Oracle went into a conflict, basically. So they couldn't agree on certain licenses. That is why Google decided to change the language for their default environment. So there are a lot of things that you can do with Java, such as Java Virtual Machine executes the Java bytecode. It is the code execution component of all Java platforms. This is the part that changes at the background basically, and everything else stays on the top of it. The use of some bytecode for all JVM on platforms allow Java to be described as a write once, run anywhere programming environment. Java also works on Android, as I discussed, despite the fact that now the language, the default language of the Android environment changed. Basically, you can still design applications using Java code, and actually many of the tutorials are still done in that regard. You can still see the tutorials offered mostly in Java rather than Kotlin, because despite Google changed the language, Kotlin does not work as fast as Java right now. So how do you write the Java codes? Basically, at the top, you name your file as Java. Once you compile this, it is converted into a class file. Then in the machine, basically the machine uses this to convert into the assembly code to the machine language format. And this is done automatically afterwards. So you don't have to worry about it. You only worry about the top level and making sure that you have a JVM which can convert the Java code into the class code. That's it. Nowadays, we use IDEs to do this functionality, so you don't do this stuff individually. So it's not like, well, technically you can write the Java code on a notepad editor and run it, so you don't need anything other than a compiler to run the code. But doing this is kind of like unnecessary at this stage, because like many of the IDEs that we use today are so smart that they can do this functionality without you suffering in a notepad to write the code. There are many IDEs that support Java and that can help you out quite a lot. So when we go down, we can see that there are a variety of platforms. You can write the Java code. You can write it in Eclipse, for example, which is a free open environment, which you can use it to write the codes and run it. Eclipse is actually a very good editor for those people who have an older machine, because it doesn't consume memory as much as NetBeans or IntelliJ or other editors. So if you have an older computer and you want to run the Java code quite quickly, you can use Eclipse. It's a great environment. It doesn't support add and drop features for Spring library and other libraries as well, but there's a plugin for it which you can actually download and install on Eclipse. It's called, I think, Windows Builder. So you can go in there and basically type Eclipse Windows Builder, window builder, and you can actually download this into the Eclipse, which will automatically support drag and drop features. It's a very good IDE. I really like it, and it's completely free. You can use NetBeans, which is the official one offered from Oracle, the company that owns the rights of Java right now, which is a great IDE. This is the one that I'm going to use mostly throughout the course. I like this IDE. It's not the best, but it does the job quite good, and it has its own perks to use. It's really good, and it has some memory problems, but nowadays most computers can run it so easily, and it is also you know you can apply like several additions on it, such as there is a GitHub add-on that you can put and share projects and so forth. The most of the IDEs that I like is the IntelliJ. I think once you have advanced in Java quite a little bit, you can use this IDE to develop programs like more advanced. It's very friendly in terms of development. This is also the same company who develops the Android Studio. So basically, if you have used or planning to use Android Studio in the future and do Android programming, this is probably the environment that you should really learn, because it's the same company, the IDEs are very similar, and it's really great. Any questions up to this point? No. Can you all hear me? Can you follow the lecture? At least can you please answer that I will know you are there? Right. This is not the way that we go though. You need to step up and talk in this lecture if you want to continue, or if you're going to act like a silent ghost, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record the videos in advance and put them there, guys. Okay? So you need to step up and participate in the course, or like I said, I will just record the videos in advance and put them there so you can watch them anytime you like. So which way do you want to go? Do you want to do these lectures live so we can communicate? Or do you want to be a silent ghost so I can record the videos and put them online? Which one do you prefer? Wow, no answer. Great, I'm going to continue then, whatever. So I explain what this is. I'm going to go into and start with the lecture. Start with the coding procedure. There are a couple of things that you would need to know. That is, the first thing is to create a project. So basically, once you have NetBeans on your computer, you can simply click on New Project, select Java application, and you give it a name. I'm going to give it object-oriented programming, and my main class will be just going to name it main. Once you have done it, you can see that it creates the code. You can zoom in by pressing the Alt key and see it. There are certain parameters created automatically. You don't need them. Just tidy up the place so you can have a better vision. Now this part is created automatically. But to basically do this, you will need to understand certain things which are described in chapter 2. Now, one of the things about Java is everything that you have seen in C and C++ so far in those lectures is transferable here. So everything that you covered in the previous lectures about loops, about functions, about if-else statements, about those things. They are very transferable here. So I'm not going to repeat how to write a variable or how to create methods or how to write an if-else statement and so forth. All of these things are basically the same in Java as in C++. One of the key differences, however, is that any kind of data, any kind of class can be a variable here. So instead of having primitive data types like integer, long, whatever, double, you have also any class that you can create which can be a data type for you. The rest is basically the same. So we're going to see how we can create certain classes, how we can get data. One of the things that we're going to use today is the scanner class. This basically allows us to create specific variables and get them from the user. So in order to do this, we're going to come in here. And the first line that I'm going to type is system. So each time I type it, you will see that there will be suggestions offered to me. System out, for example, println, will allow me to type code inside, such as, let's say, my name and my surname, and it will put a new line after this statement. To run this application, you have to basically click on the run icon or just go there, run the project. When you run it, there's a console screen down there. You will see it over here, and it basically shows my name there. You can zoom into the run console screen if you like to. You can also attach it to a certain location, just as we did before. So that is it. I'm gonna close this part. Startup page, yeah. So this is how you should use your IDE. Basically, this should be the place you code. Down there should be a run place, and this is where you type the code. You can also type a statement after this or previously. It's basically kind of like serves as the printf or cout in C++. You can also type other stuff underneath this. This is my first Java program. You can click on this icon to run it, and as you can see, this time around it didn't leave an basically a blank space after it. To do this, you can put a \n, just like in C, if you want this to be down there. If you put println, it will do this automatically for each line. So after showing the line, it will basically leave an empty space. Okay, this is exactly like cout in C++. There are certain ways to get data either from the console or create a simple window using the swing library to get information. Now, one way of doing this is the scanner class. The scanner class will allow you to get data from the user. As you type the codes, you can get the entire line, and based on what you get, you can then process the data. So let's use the scanner class. In order to use it, we will create a new object for the scanner class. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to type scanner, my scan, or SC, doesn't matter. New scanner, and we're going to type system. Now, if the class is not recognized, you see underlined, it says that it cannot find it. You can press Alt Enter on your keyboard, or you can simply go on it and right click to basically see what the error was. I would suggest putting Alt Enter, and as you press on it, you will see add import Java utility. So this is basically a import that I didn't put inside my program yet. This is why it doesn't recognize what this statement should do. So it doesn't yet understand it. In order to make sure to use this statement, we need to make sure that there is the necessary import there. So I'm going to put the import in here, and as you can see, it's there. Now that the import is placed, we can do whatever we like with it. For example, we can ask a person their name. So I'm going to delete this line, and I will type, please enter your name. Having done so, you can see that you can get the name as a variable. Now it's a nice idea to define the variables here just before you use them. So I define a variable name, and to get the name, we will use sc, which is basically the statement that I create here, the object, and I'm going to get the next line. This means that whatever the user types in the next line, it will be stored into this variable. And now you can basically use the same format to show that specific variable. Your name is whatever you typed. In order to add it, you just put a plus sign at the end of that string, and you can run it. Now I can come in here and type a name, as you can see. And whenever I pressed enter, it says your name is this. This one, I don't think I need a println because I don't want it to go to the next line. So running it again, I can type my name here, as you can see, and your name is this. If you type a different name, that different name will be displayed there. Okay, this is the scanner class, and it is basically allows you to get information from the console. Now it's much easier to get data when you deal with it on the string data type, but things might get a little bit nastier if you want to get data as a number. So such as, let's define year born, and you want to ask the user which year you were born. If you want to basically get this information now, you cannot initialize directly an integer value to the next line. If you do this, you will get an error message, because whatever you get from the user should be basically a string data type. It cannot be an integer, because the way that this is designed is that it only allows you to get the string data type. So what we're going to do in here is that we're going to create the scanner class again to make sure that we get this data type correctly. How do we do this? We're going to come in here and create string yearborn str. Instead of yearborn, I'm going to call it yearborn str. Now that we got this, and we want to, let's say, calculate the age of the user. We cannot calculate the age unless the yearborn is an integer number. So this is the part that we stray away from regular C++. In regular C, you can get the data type as you like on the console. In here, everything you get is regarded as a string. So you need to do some conversions. What you need to do here is to make sure that this data type that you get is actually an integer value. You can say that integer yearborn, which is basically up there, has to be converted. To convert it, we put integer parse integer. And what we're going to parse is yearborn str. What it does here is that the value that is in yearborn str is automatically converted to the integer equivalent, which is in there. You see, yearborn str is actually a string, but yearborn is an integer. So we are trying to convert the string value into an integer. Now that we did this, we can define the current year. Integer current year is 2020. To define this, you can also put constant in front of it. Now I'm not going to ignore this because basically when we define it, we define the constants up there under the class. So I'm just going to type current year. And to find the age of this person, we're going to say current year minus yearborn. If I subtract the year you are born from the current year, which is 2020, it will give me your age. When we write it down, we can type system out, println, your age is age. Or you can say you are whatever years old. So running the application once again, you see the application first asks me to enter my name here. I'm going to enter my name. And I press enter and it asks me in which year I was born. And I'm going to say 2000. And press enter. And it says your name is this and you are 20 years old. If you run the application once again, you can enter completely different data. Let's say 1940, and I'll be 8 years old. Any questions up to this point? This is the scanner class. So basically, when you want to get data from the console, you can use this class. If you have any questions, please either talk or write on the chat screen. If you don't have any questions, still write it down on the chat screen and tell me to continue. Cool. So I'm going to continue now. I'm going to create another one. This one, I'm going to create it as main 2. So I'm going to come in here, Java application. Actually, I can edit from there, new Java class. I'm going to type this as main 2. Or swing example. Let's call it swing example. I'm going to delete all this unnecessary data. Now, in an application that you create, only one of the classes is the main class or the application class, and the application class always have the main method. However, you can copy and paste this if you like to the other classes and make them application classes as well. If you want to change the name of a class, you can do this by going to the refactor option and rename. Right click on it, go to refactor and rename. And from there, you can type, for example, scanner example. For the first exercise, I'm going to change it to scanner example, which is basically what it does. And for the second one, I change it to the swing example. Now, swing will be similar to the first one, but this time around, we'll get the data from the screen. Rather than creating a console screen like this, we're gonna get it from basically using small windows. So to use it, we use something called JOptionPane, which is a static class. Using this static class, you can basically show different kind of messages. Like JOptionPane, show message dialog. You can put the first value null now, and the second value as anything you would like to show, such as hello, this is my first swing window. When you run this program, you will see that it will show you a small swing window. Now running it, you will have to right click on it and run the file. And it will say, this is my first swing window. Okay, just running it again, run file. This is my first swing window. So you can use the swing just as the scanner to get certain information from the user. To do this, we're going to type, for example, a name variable. To get the name variable, we're going to type name equals to JOptionPane dot show input dialog. Now with the show input dialog, we're going to ask the user what they want to enter. Please enter your name. And if you want to show the value of this, you can use show message dialog. Your name is. To run it, right click and run. And you see now that input box is being created. You can simply type your name. And now it shows a message. So basically it does exactly what the scanner was doing, but instead of using this console screen down there, where it asks you to enter your name, stuff like that, In the previous program, it was asking you to basically enter this data on the console screen. In the second program, what it does is you just right click on it and run the program, and it creates you the windows. We can also change the default compiled program from the run option. So as you can see, the main class here is the scanner example. So if you come here and type swing example, this is going to be the one that runs. So pressing on the run icon, now as you can see, this became the default one that runs. You can also add the same kind of patterns here as in the previous program to basically show all of this. So instead, once you have asked the name, I'm going to come here and inside the year, which is going to be a string value, year born, or year born, this one year born str, and let's create a current year as well. So year born str will be enter which year you are born. And once you have typed this, you can do the calculation on it. You can say that year born is equals to integer, parse integer, year born str. So this is basically converting the string value to an actual integer value. Once this is done, you can calculate the age. Age is equals to current year minus year born. When you calculated this, you just need to copy paste this part, and you can say your age is whatever the age you have there. Now that we finished the same program, I'm going to right click and run it. So it first asks me my name, the year I was born, let's say 1998. Your name is this, whatever that is, and you are this years old. Okay, that's how it does. Now there is a problem here, however, that you might face. So when you run the application and you enter your name there, but you do not enter a number here, but rather a character, let's say I'm going to enter my surname, this will create an error message, as you can see. The reason for this is because you are trying to convert something to a number, but the information entered here is not an actual number, it's something else. So it cannot understand how a series of characters can be converted into a number. To overcome this problem, you can use what we call as try and catch, which is going to be something you should be using often. You can use try just encapsulate this part, and underneath this put a catch exception. Now tried part will try to do this statement, and catch part will only execute if the try doesn't work. So if this part doesn't work, it will automatically come in here. So you can now show an kind of like an error message if you want in the catch part, and show an error there, such as now you can say something like, please enter a number. You can put error here, and J option pane. If you want to customize this, you can customize it. So I'm going to put it there. J option pane, error message. So I'm kind of like customizing this to make sure that there will be an error message being displayed if there's an error. Now, because this one is not being initialized, I'm going to go up there and type 0. So that at least if it doesn't get the number, it will be 0. So you won't get an error. So now that you have done this, let's try the same mistake again. So I'm going to type, run the application. I'm going to type my name and some gibberish stuff here. And we'll have to basically catch the exception. Let's see. So we have the year born in the second one. Oh, we type it to the wrong place. Sorry, this is the scanner one. So I need to go back to the swing one. Sorry. So that's where we should type it. I was typing it in the wrong place. So I need to basically type the same kind of statements here. Make sure this is correct. So I'm gonna go up here. Instead of converting it there, I'm gonna try and catch. So we have year born, catch, and then whatever that is. So I'm gonna run it now. Once again, typing gibberish characters here, and now I don't get the error, as you can see. Instead, I get a customized error message, which is created by me, and it says enter a number, and still shows my name. Okay. You can even do this in a better way if you want, such as, inside the try, you can carry these things up. Not only that, but all the results if you want. And the error message is please enter. So I'm going to change the error message. Type a number to year. And this one I'm going to type please. So making sure that this is like more polite. And running the application once again. And assume that I did not enter a number. Now the customized error message is changed. Type a number, please enter a number. And nothing happens. It doesn't show the result now. You see. Okay, that's how you use try and catch. And you can use it for scanner class as well. It doesn't matter where you type it. More or less, it's going to be the same. Instead of the option pane, you're going to use the scan. You can come in here, use exactly the same try and catch. I'm going to go back. We got the year born. We want to basically do a try and catch part. So I'm going to get rid of all of this. So basically your name and your age will be now in system out println, and instead of GeoChampaign we can also use system out println here. So it doesn't matter how you use try and catch. You can use it in the swing. You can also use it in the class file, in the swing file. So let's try to run this. Please enter your name and some gibberish data, such as my surname, and it says please enter a number, as you can see. So it doesn't show me the results. Okay. So that is the swing and that is the scan. Like there are two ways to get and manipulate data. One that you can use the swing library by default, and another one that you can use the scan class. There are of course multiple ways to do this. These are not the only two ways, but these are the most common ones. There's also Java effects and other libraries, other customized libraries that you can use to get data. So basically this is all first couple of lectures is about how to get data. You see name is typed, age is typed, and you say this is that. Any questions up to this point? Is everything clear? Did you understand the swing and also the scanner? Okay. Since you have no problems, I'm gonna go on the subroutines and functions, which is basically how we can use methods to get certain data and manipulate this data. So let's look up the examples here, how we use the methods. So we're gonna create a new kind of like program to show you how we can manipulate this whole thing with methods as well. So I'm gonna create a new class called shape exercise. And within this shape exercise, we're gonna have a main method. And also we will use customized methods. We'll come there, with the main method. We're gonna also use customized methods. So in this exercise, what I'm gonna do is create 3 different shapes. These are circle, rectangle, and square. And we will calculate the area of these shapes. Okay, that is the program. So basically 3 different shapes are going to exist and you're going to have to calculate the area. So how do we do this? First, we'll create a menu for the user. So I'm going to create a string value as menu. And I'm going to say something like first option is going to be square. Second option is going to be rectangle. And third option is going to be circle. Can also type them like, like this. Doesn't matter. If you want to push them to a new line, you can see that it does it automatically. So you can put it there and ask the user, please select a shape. One, two, or three. And we expect the user to pick up a shape. And I'm going to put the semicolon at the end. So we now know that the square, rectangle, and circle are options, and we are expected to select one. Now, once you created your design of the menu, like this, what you could do is to put it inside the J option pane automatically. J option pane, show input dialog, and I'm just going to put the menu here. Like the entire variable which I created there should be in here. And I expect the user to pick up something, a choice, which I'm going to put it in here. Choice SDR. And the choice SDR will be there. Now, as soon as I run this thing, you see the shape exercise, it will automatically run whatever we type inside. Once again, you can go to the properties, find the run option, and change it to your new exercise. This is shape exercise. I'm going to put OK here and run the application. And as you can see, it offers me a menu, 1, 2, 3, square, rectangle, circle, and I am expected to pick one of them. I can type 1, I can type 2, I can type 3, or I can type some other stuff. It doesn't matter. But there's a choice there which I'm offered, and I can do that choice. So what we're going to do from this point on is to evaluate these choices. The first thing we're going to do is to make sure that this is a number. So we're going to put try, make sure that it's a number entered there. So we're going to come here, integer choice. Choice is basically integer, parse integer. It doesn't always have to be integer parse integer. If it's a double, it can be a double. If it's a, I don't know, if it's a float, it can be a float. So it's up to you. Now what I want to convert is choice str. And if it is done properly, we have to throw an exception. The exception is exactly the same as in the previous exercise. So you can simply even copy paste it if you want. So I'm going to copy paste this error message here and tell the user that please enter a number to the choice. So I'm basically asking the user to enter a number into the choice section. Because if they don't enter a number, this will create an error. If they, however, enter a number, we will have to go through and evaluate their choice. Let's try once again if this is going to work for us. So assuming that I did not enter a number, It will say, please enter a number to the choice section. And it will stop the program. If they enter a number, however, then we can offer them what to do. We can come here, we can put a switch statement. Remember switch from your C++ courses. It is handy. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna put a choice and evaluate each switch. So case 1, for example, refers to scale. And say something like you selected, and after each case we put what? A break. Now we have a second case. The second case, according to the menu, is rectangle. And we can put a third case, which is circle. If none of these cases work for me, which is like the user did not enter 1, 2, or 3, we can put a default case, which is then showing the user that, then another error message, which you can copy paste from here, and tell the user that please select 1, 2, or 3. No other numbers are accepted. Type 1, 2, or 3. And it's an optional thing, but you can put a break after default as well. This is optional in C++, and as far as I know, it's also optional in Java. Let's try. So I'm gonna shape on it. Yes, so it's optional. So I'm gonna type some other number here, and it says, please select 1, 2, or 3. No other numbers are accepted. And the program stops. In C#, this is not optional, which is very weird, actually. You need to put a break after default. But in C++ and Java, it is optional. So if I run this thing again, and now I select a valid choice, let's say 1, it will show me square. Run it again, it will show me rectangle as the second one. Run it again, the third one is circle. So I'm able to select the correct shape by just typing the number associated with them. And you gotta now basically create a series of functions which will calculate each shape. Now what we need for this is that we're gonna type a double area, initially 0, and we're also gonna type 3 values. R, which is the radius, A, which is one side of a rectangle or a square, and B is just for rectangle. It is also possible that you can use a constant value at the top. You can type constant, for example, double pi, and then give it 3.14. Okay, this will allow you to basically why is it not accepting it? Illegal start of a type. It's a final constant. I'm just going to take it final. Okay, it doesn't accept the keyword constant, so I'm just going to type final. Final double pi is basically 3.14, which we're going to use it for the area of the circle. Now you can type it at the top if you like, because this is not something that is going to change throughout the entire program. It's something that is basically whatever, just there. It's not going to change. Where these are actually values. So this is kind of like a constant. It's not going to change, but these ones, they can change according to the choice of the user. So what we're going to do now is we're going to basically cascade this and then type our functions. Now I'm going to type private here because the function that I'm going to type is only going to work within this class. I don't want other class to reach it. So we're going to type private area circle. And we're going to accept an integer r, which is the radius. And we're going to say something like float area, initially 0. And this will be float too. You can also make it double. Doesn't matter, to be honest. It can be either double or float. And the area of a circle is pi multiplied by r multiplied by r. Now the pi value, because it's constant, it is actually coming from here, as you can see, the shape exercise. Inside main, we type all of this stuff for the menu. I made sure that this is minimized, and the final value is coming from up there under the class. Now, the only thing you need to do is to make sure that the area is returned. And this becomes another class, as you can see. So, sorry, another function. So this is a method, this is another method. There are now two methods. And you can type as many methods as you like. There is no limitation for it. For example, we can type another method to find the area of rectangle. To calculate the area of rectangle, we need two values, a and b. The rest is going to be almost the same. So we will need to have an area, right? And the area will be a multiplied by b. And it will be return area. There is one more that we need to do, which is scale. So I'm going to copy paste this area scale. This will be only a. So a multiplied by a will give me the area. If you want to gain some space, you can also make sure that these gaps are not there. It's basically style. It's up to you how to handle it. Now we need to learn how to use them inside this, inside the main. So for the scale, we need basically one side of the square in order to calculate it. So we're going to put something like in here, option pane, input dialog. Please enter one side of the square. And this will be initialized to the value a, which was there. However, because it's a number, we need to again convert it into try and catch. Remember, it has to be converted. So how do we do this? We do a try, we do a catch. We can put directly, if you want, even integer, parse integer, and the entire thing can be inside the bracket. This is not the perfect way. I would actually prefer you to do things like, step by step, but still works if you want to do it that way. So I would actually prefer you to get a value here, such as string, input value or something and get it as the input value. I'll do this conversion step by step rather than putting everything in one place. So this is input value. A is gonna be integer, parse integer, input value. And if the conversion is not gonna be done properly, we have to show an error message, just as we did in here. We go up and show the error message. Please enter a number. Error. And we need to put the exception here. Make sure that it's there. And to be honest, this has to be repeated several times. So you selected square, you selected whatever, data, and each time you do this, you will realize that you are repeating it. Now, repetition in programming is not a good thing. So if you feel like you're gonna repeat something, you need to make sure that you have a generic kind of like class, which you can use it several times. So what I'm gonna do in here, I'm gonna create a specific function which will allow me to get data from the user. So I'm gonna call to get data. And in here, I'm gonna select input value, data, not date. And I realize that, this is a specific pattern that I need to follow up. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create integer value, output value, let's say. And we know that the input value is being entered. Please enter whatever. Type another string value. Message here. Message. And we get the input value here and the output value there. So basically I'm trying to create a pattern so that I don't have to repeat same statements over and over again, because repetition is a bad thing in programming. The more repetition you do, the less efficient the program is. So you need to find ways that you reduce repetition as much as you can. Now I realized that I have to get the values from the user so many times, and each time it has to go through to a process that this should be a number. So instead of asking it over and over again inside the case, what I did is I basically create a different function called getData to make sure that this data is going to ask the question for me. So in the case of square, I want to get only one side. So I'm going to type a getData, what value that I want to put inside. The first value is going to be the input value. The second value, according to the function, has to be a message. Please enter a side of the square. Now this one is okay. Might not have been, it says input value might not have been initialized. initialize it. So this one is over there. I'm coming in here, input value. Let's see. Input value. And we need to get it from the user. So input value will be something like the option pane. Oops. Input dialog box. Option pane dot show input dialog. Please enter one side of the square. I'm going to copy paste this one in here too. Yes, all of this. So we can do it like that actually. So instead of this, just gonna pass the message here. So how do I do this? I'm gonna type string input value there, and the input value will be whatever message that you typed. And I'm gonna delete this one. Actually, I have this in here. So just get the data there. And the final thing that I need to do is to make sure that this is static, because main is static, or otherwise it wouldn't get it. And as you can see, I fixed the error. And let's see how this is going to work. Just to repeat, I have a string input value and an output value, which are basically my values that I want to get. I basically have an input message, whatever that is, gets it and converts it. And then if it doesn't convert it, it says, well, this has to be converted. Now that we have done this, we ask this same question here. Please enter a side of the square. And once we get the side, we have to pass it to the area circle. So assuming that A is done properly, we will need a value called area, which is already there. So area will be initialized to area. Now this one has to be static as well, because you have the value over there that you have in here, which is inside a static function domain. So it's going to be final static double. Non-static area cannot be replaced from static constant, which is here and here. Now if you go up, you'll see that the error is gone. The final thing that I need to do is the option pane, show message dialog. Now, and I'm going to say area of square equals to whatever area you calculate. Let's now try to run this program. So I'm going to type square, and it says you selected this one. Okay. I will have to enter a number, assuming that I did not enter a number. It will say, please enter a number, and it will show 0 for the area of square. If I, however, run this program properly, select 1 and 2 for the square, it will actually calculate the area. So 2 times 2, as you can see, is 4. So it calculated it right. and show the result. So once you have established this logic that you are reusing the data as much as you can, the only thing you have to do is to copy paste this format for the rest of it. So it's going to be like, when you come here, we're just going to say A, get clear a side of the rectangle, and B going to be the same. This is going to be get another side of the rectangle, and the area rectangle will be A, comma B. Now that we have this, all you have to do is to show area of rectangle. This is rectangle with an L. And we did it. So it's A and B this time. For the circle, we're gonna basically repeat exactly the same thing, but this time we're gonna call it R. We're gonna say, please enter the radius of the circle. So you see how I wrote once and try to use it as many times as possible. That is actually the essence of Java. So the first time you write it, it's a little bit difficult to understand because you go up and down, arrange each one of these functions to make them as reusable as possible. But once you have written it, all you have to do is to address to the correct function and use it. So you have area circle, and this one will be, this time, instead of A and B, we're going to just type R. And all you have to do is to show R. So we're going to come in here, area of circle, area. So it took us some time to set up the, the program to make sure that it is going to be as reusable as possible. But once we have done it, as you can see, it's just typing these statements, making sure that they're going to be visible there. So I'm going to type shape exercise run. Now I can select any of these shapes, say rectangle, say 2 and 4. 2 times 4 is 8. I can rerun this application. 3, circle, let's say 5, 78.5 is the end. So that is the nature of how you can play around with the functions that you see in here. You see I created a specific function to get the data for me, for the input data types or whatever. And I created different functions to calculate the areas. And each one I called within that specific main method. And the reason why each one of them has static in front of it is because I'm not using an object to do this operation. They are basically different functions being called in the same class, which is what we use the static for. If the function is basically being called through a class rather than an object, we put static key in front of it. Did you understand this exercise? If you understand this exercise really well, you have a good understanding of Java, at least how it works in terms of logic. You probably understand it. Any questions? So far, I finished the first 3 ones. So all of this is basically done. About the library methods, I finished the integer parse, double parse. I should told you already that how it's done. I showed you how you can get the JOption pane message. I describe you what the static keywords are. I use the private and public. As you can see, private is there. It allows you to add these modifiers in front of it. This means that it's only accessible inside the class and the outside classes cannot access it. The public one means that it is available to other classes, so other classes can see it, and so forth. All of this information in the slides that we cover up is already done. So because this is our first lecture, I'm not going to go beyond. I think I have done enough for today, right? So we're going to stop in here. In the next lecture, which is going to be on Monday, I'm going to continue with GUI components. So far I have done all of the first 3 chapters. I have talked about that. Please have a look at these first 3 chapters that are available on Moodle right now. And in the next lecture, if you have any questions, come with solid questions, okay? We are not going to be very efficient if you just sit there and just watch me, because I already know this stuff and it's not going to benefit you in any way, okay? So make sure, forget about the quizzes, forget about the midterms. I don't care about that. All I care is you learning stuff. First, you're going to learn this, then we're going to discuss about it, okay? Next lecture, I'm describing you what you have to do. You have to look at all these 3 chapters by next lecture, which is on Monday. And if you have any questions, you prepare your questions and ask me. If you're gonna be like today, that you actually do not function at all, just sit there, don't talk to me, don't ask me any questions, I will convert my session to asynchronous sessions, which means I will record videos in advance and put them, and all you have to do will be to listen to them or watch them, okay? So that I don't have to be alive, all right? So make up your own mind. By next lecture, either ask me questions or I will continue to do this asynchronous, okay? Because this is my first lecture today, I'm gonna stop in here, but basically I covered everything in the first 3 chapters. In the next lecture, I will continue with chapter 4. Thank you for coming to my class today. I will upload this video on Moodle and share it with you. Before I leave the lecture, do you have anything you don't understand about what I talked today? About the lecture, not anything else. Do you have any questions? I assume you don't have any questions then, since you don't reply. Then I wish you a have a lovely day. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye.